Business confidence in Nigeria declined slightly in May 2025 due to persistent power shortages, worsening insecurity, and structural issues, according to the NESG Stanbic IBTC Business Confidence Monitor. The report shows a drop in the current business index to a drop to plus 9.78 from plus 12.29 in April, signaling reduced momentum despite ongoing economic reforms. Agriculture was the worst hit sector, posting a negative index of 1.77, largely due to climate change and weak infrastructure. The contrast on manufacturing and trade remained in positive territory, although overall performance slowed compared to the previous month. Despite challenges, optimism remains. The business confidence measure rose to plus 32.44, up from plus 28 or 28.04, reflecting improved expectations for the coming months. FX reforms and slowing cost pressures have helped businesses stay afloat, but high inflation, poor consumer spending, and investment hesitancy still pose risks. Our guest this morning is Mr. Segun Shokweton, and we'll be looking at this business confidence. Good morning and welcome to the show this morning, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
With all the grammar we've heard from the report and all that, what is the reality on the ground, business confidence-wise?
I mean, it's interesting that that's your first question, because as you were speaking, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that, these types of reports are very good. In fact, they're necessary. And I wish that, the official data gathering body of the government, the National Bureau of Statistics, will do stuff like this more often and more consistently, so that we can determine trends and patterns over time, over long periods of time, rather than, these random things that just pop up every now and then in the news. Because what that would then do is that you can then benchmark that and use it to measure improvements, and as we say in management, what you cannot measure, you can't improve it. What you don't measure, you can't improve. So the numbers sound good, but looking around you and looking at the reality on the ground, looking at some of the numbers that that are more reliable, macroeconomic indicators and all of that, you see that it's a mixed picture. Business confidence is kind of maybe declined slightly, but I think that the general perception in the business community, organized private sector especially, would be cautious optimism, because we are beginning to see stability. So there are no surprises that that particular report is reporting what it's saying. But unfortunately, the economy does not start and end in the organized private sector. It does not start and end with business operators in the country. There is a huge percentage of economic activity that is accounted for by the informal sector. And these guys are right there, pretty much at the bottom of the pyramid, very susceptible and vulnerable to all of the very serious challenges that we have as a country, and all of the failures of governance and failures of infrastructure, failures of service, and all of that. And so, whilst we're looking for the good news and the silver lining, in the dark clouds, we must ensure that our eyes are firmly rooted on the reality, on what's actually happening around us. And I think that if you do that, then you find that the picture is still very grim, it's very dire. We're nowhere near where we need to be, where we should be, and we should not be trying to paint the picture otherwise. We have no business trying to convince ourselves that things are getting better. They're not. So let me give you an example. Foreign exchange, that report talked about foreign exchange and stability. And I wonder, what exactly do we mean by stability? Because stability as a word in itself, it's a no-brainer. Our foreign exchange rates have been stable for decades. Let's be honest. So the question is, do you achieve stability by fiat, by fixing the rates, or by defending your currency, as some people would like to say, or do you achieve stability by floating the currency and then managing all of the factors that will ensure that having floated it, the forces of demand and supply keeps it at a level where predictability is then possible, right? So if you do that, what then happens to the overall economy, as a result of the floating? We have to look at the total picture. So it's not enough to just talk about stability. The fact that, exchange rate is 1,550 or 1,598 now, and it's been around the 1,550, 1,650 range for almost a year. And you can therefore say, 100 naira movement is stable over a 1 year period. People can plan. But it's not enough, because then you have to look at the absolute figure itself. What does that do to everything else? Because our economy, as we all know, is indexed on the exchange rate. So it looks good, it sounds good to say some of these things, but I think that our reality is far more grim, it's grimmer than we seem willing to admit, and that worries me.
Yeah, because when you were talking, you said something about the fact that we needed these reports as often as possible and as consistently as possible. But do you think the indices that they're using to compile these reports is accurate enough? Because if the economy is stable, for instance, that is according to what demography are we talking about? Who are we looking at when we are talking about the stability of our economy or the improvement of our economy? Is it the elitist class? Is it the manufacturers? Is it the retailers, the small businesses, or the big ones? I don't know. So when we talk stability, when we talk improvement, who are they using as the index to measure what a stable economy is, an improved economy is right now in Nigeria? Do you think they should shift their indices to something else, or they should continue with that and be giving us these reports like this that don't seem to have any bearing on what is really happening in the community?
And again, brilliant point that you make, and that also occurred to me as I was looking at all of these things when I was preparing for this conversation. This report is the outcome of the survey. In fact, most reports, most statistical data reports that we reference, even the ones that come from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, even your inflation, your CPI, inflation number, they're surveys largely. What you do is that you have field operatives, and you send them out and you gather feedback. So really, this is the perception thing, this particular one. Therefore, one has to take the outcomes with a pinch of salt. You have to be circumspect about it, especially because, like you say, the demographic that has been surveyed in this case are mainly large business operators. Their reality is very different from what's on ground. So if you want to talk, but then again, it's business confidence. So the question now is what business? And that's why I referenced the informal sector. So this type of survey would have done far better if the sample size is expanded. The report unfortunately did not say clearly, or I didn't see, what the sample size is, how far and wide the net was cast with the survey forms and with the other types of interaction that happened by the people that conducted the report. So if, for example, we're talking, say, this happened in 36 states, and happened with a certain number of thousands of respondents that were deliberately curated to ensure that there is a wide representation across all of the different types of operators and players, across all demographic groups, and all of that, then we could say that maybe this is representative of reality to a certain degree. But I don't know that this does that. And therefore, we do have to be careful with what especially when what it's saying doesn't really quite align with reality. So like I said before, there is some optimism. There's no doubt about that, because things are no longer getting worse. But are they getting better? And we want them to get better. We would like to see exchange rates, for example, at 1,000 naira. Bearing in mind that we started off from 650, if memory serves, in the parallel market and about 550 in the offshore market. Just 2.5 years, two years ago actually, just 2 years ago. It would be nice to see the thing now, having done all the things that we've done, come back down to around 1,000, because that would have a dramatic effect on everything else. And it's possible to do that if we simply do the right things from a policy standpoint. For example, why are we still importing PMS? We have no business importing PMS, and that one single action will reduce the pressure, the demand pressure on dollars, and the exchange rate will collapse. Why are we not doing that? So there's still so much that we can do better that we're not doing. And a report like this simply tries to, sell hope. And I don't think that you do yourself any good by selling hope when your situation is dire. That's not to say you should be, you should allow yourself to sink into despair. Hope is very important, but you shouldn't lie to yourself, because if you are lying to yourself, then you are going to die, in your virtual reality. So we need to be true to ourselves. We need to tell ourselves the truth about what our situation is, and then ask ourselves the hard questions. Why are we not doing the things that we should be doing to make things better? Because these things are not rocket science. We can do, just two policy actions from this government today. Exchange rate will collapse at least to 1,200 naira to the dollar. And imagine what that does to the price of goods, even food, across the economy. So why is that not happening? I think those are the things that we really need to be talking about.
It's a long time I went to a market to find out that something has come down in price. Whatever goes up hardly ever comes down in Nigeria. But a worrisome thing is that business, if left for me, I think that business is not moving if all the money you're making from the business is plowed into food or some other necessities that you could have had for cheaper, because whatever profits you're making, you're spending it, so you're not saving anything. So for me, that business is not moving at all. So we cannot, separate or divorce business and the livelihood that you're having in the country. So now, you've talked about the Naira, floating of the Naira, how it is affecting us. We've talked about so many other things that are affecting us. I'd like you to continue in that trajectory, to just suggest some things that can make life a little bit more meaningful, a little bit easier for the people of Nigeria. Not just that business is moving, business improving and all that, because when you do business and it moves, it should reflect in your life as well as citizens.
Mr. Gaji, simple solution, simple suggestion, Mr. President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Apply the Nigeria First policy PMS. Just watch the magic. Look, let us ask why we're still importing PMS. Apply Nigeria First. We've got Dangote refinery, we've got Bua, we've got quite a number of smaller modular refineries. As we speak today, sir, we produce more PMS than we need in the country. Dangote is actually exported. Why are we still importing? So that Nigeria First policy that the president declared just a couple of weeks ago, let's apply to PMS. And what happens to exchange rates? It's frustrating, to see that the things that we can do, we should do, and that are easy to do are not being done for personal vested interest. It's really painful. It's painful. The other thing, for still talking solutions, if you want to see business improvement that affects the lives of all Nigerians today, fix electricity. It's not hard, So if you think about the electricity problem and you look at it from the point of view, the big picture, you talk about transmission, generation, distribution, you're going to get stuck in a rut that you can't get out of, because the infrastructure decay in those areas from a national point of view I think is irredeemable. So you have to look elsewhere. You've got to cast your game beyond what we have on ground now. Trying to get generation or distribution above 5,500 megawatts. Are you joking? 5,500 megawatts for 230 million Nigerians across 928,000 square kilometers of land mass. We're joking, right? So don't try to solve it by fixing transmission or by fixing generation or distribution. Bring the available technology to bear on the problem. Create policies that will drive alternative energy. Everybody is doing solar. Everybody that can afford it. Everybody. The only reason people are not on solar now in this country today they can't afford it. There is no other reason. So what can government do? What policy can government put in place that will make that will democratize it? If we do that, our entire power situation, electricity situation will dramatically improve, and businesses will improve, innovation, creativity, productivity will shoot up, and people will see money to spend, and inflation will come down. So these things are not difficult, but for some reason, we don't do the things we need to do, and we need to keep asking why. Why have these things not been done? So fix electricity, stop importing PMS, and fixing electricity, I'm not talking about the long-term 10-year, 15-year plan where you're trying to revitalize or you renew your transmission grid. I'm saying there are solar panels available everywhere today. How can you make it affordable? How can you provide finance for people that are working? Let's even leave the ones that are not working. The people that are working alone, give them finance in a structured manner. Let's not be lazy about this thing. So we can solve this problem, my brother. We just simply seem to lack the will, determination to do the things that we need to do. If you fix electricity and fix PMS importation today, I'm pretty certain exchanges will drop by itself based on natural force of demand and supply. Will drop below 1,000 naira to the dollar. We produce more things. We need to import less, so that will reduce pressure again. The value will increase for that. And so on and so forth. It's like a self-enforcing
Mr.
cycle, but we're refusing to do the things that we need to do.
Yeah. This is not meant to trigger you to talk for a very long time. Let's say if you can talk for 30 minutes, well, that's fine. One of the reasons they said the business confidence dipped in May was power. You've addressed that. The other one was security. And one of the many reasons that the present administration is being endorsed for 2027, according to the politicians who are going all about, instead of talking about achievements, endorsing the president for 2027, is that security has improved so much. What is your rating of security? Be very brief about this. In Nigeria, right?
You don't even read my rating. There's a Global Terrorism Index, GTI. Nigeria moved from sixth worst terrorized country in the world as at 2022, eighth worst, and then go to sixth worst as at 2023, and is back went up to eighth worst and is back to sixth worst. In other words, as at 2024, Nigeria is the sixth worst terrorized country in the world, and we say the security has improved. We're like to have done. So you don't need my rating. There is a ranking that is published annually. What is this government doing deliberately to ensure that we live on that ranking dramatically? That we fix banditry, fix Boko Haram, the ones in the southeast. We're not doing anything about these things because they have been commercialized. My brother, let's tell ourselves the truth. They've been commercialized. So until we're ready to move forward, we will not move forward.
All right. Well, that's the much we can take. Well, we do hope that everything improves in Nigeria. I wish that you have a wonderful day, Mr. Shokwiton. Thank you so much for being a part of our show this morning.
Thank you, my brother. Have a wonderful day.
You too. We've been talking to Mr. Segun Shokwiton on the topic business confidence dips in May amid power and security wars. We'll take a brief break and we'll be joined by a chiropractor to tell us about his practice and how Nigerians can take advantage of that. Stay with us.